to the beautiful. I miss you guys very much. I miss my Funnery family, but we'll get through this together. We got this, guys. Shakespeare's not going anywhere, and I'm really excited to see all your lovely faces and to be able to work with you even in these crazy times.
Here's a skull now. This skull hath lain you in the earth some 23 years.
Whose was it?
Whose do you think it was?
Nay, I know not.
This same skull, sir, was... Yorick's skull! The King's Jester. Even that.
Let me see. Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him, Horatio.
It's a time where we all feel isolated, but really, I think we can find ways to connect that we never would have expected and ways to put together a great show.
Hello, I'm Audrey. I use she, her pronouns, and this is my 9th year going to Get Thee to the Funnery.
I'm Ollie, I use they, them pronouns, and this is also my 9th year of doing this. Oh my god.
And we are opening our packages from Peter today.
Excited. Da-na-na-na. Dude.
Ooh! Oh my god! Oh my god! I love that so much!
Oh my god.
Oh, it's so
Phoebe
soft. Oh, it's so soft.
Fie upon your law.
Oh my gosh!
I'm wearing my other orange shirt.
I'm wearing the one from last year. Because I'm, up to date. Alright, so
I don't know where my shirt is, okay? Get out of town.
Funnery is community. Funnery is family. We are connected by invisible bonds that go through any screen.
Creating an environment within this little box is something that's going to be really fun and really exciting to try to do in a new way that we never were able to.
We may not be able to be connected in body this year, but we have never been more connected in heart and voice and mind.
We started the camp in 1998. That's 23 summers ago. And it's always been a place where young people just flock to because they can feel belonging there. They can feel supported. They can find their voice. They can discover so much about who they are. But 2020, as it unfolded, was turning out to be so different, so different. And how is it going to be for the people who came to the camp, who couldn't even come to the camp, but who had to zoom in there?
My name's Johnny Flood. I've been doing the Funnery since 2004, and it is a Shakespeare camp. It is a 2-week camp where we do theater, but I've done it for so long because it's much more than that. Really, the Funnery is a community, and it's a really special kind of community, a rare kind of community of artists and educators who provide a space for young people that is honest and open and patient and individualized, and that's a very rare thing for people of any age. So to have to move it online sucks. What do I want to say?
For obvious reasons, safety reasons, and wanting to be able to include everyone from, even though it would be more difficult in COVID, we needed it more than ever. Funnery has always been hug camp and about physical comedy and about that magical journey to the center of the universe every year. It seemed like an impossible challenge, some things we were going to have to go without, but we knew we couldn't go without Funnery.
My name is Christopher Kaufman Ilstrup. I'm the executive director of the Vermont Humanities Council. It's the state affiliate of the National Endowment for the Humanities in the state of Vermont. I'm very often reminded of the folks who say that, we don't have anything more to learn from Shakespeare 400 years on, that these words are old and dusty and they don't matter much. and yet we had just left a session where you were talking about finding your voice, specifically through the character of Caliban in The Tempest.
When thou camest first, thou strokest me, wouldst make much of me, wouldst give me water with berries in it, and teach me how to name the bigger light, and how the less that burn by day and night. And then I loved thee, showed thee all the qualities of the isle, the fresh springs, the brine pits, the barren places, the fertile. Cursed be I that did so! All the charms of sycorax, toads, bats, beetles, light on you. For I am all the subjects that you have, which first was mine own king.
That was just a rehearsal. That was really the first time I ever spoke in public. And what a place to speak, and what words to be able to say, and what a stage. And that was my voice, because I had been a stutterer, a painful stammerer my whole life long. And there I was. And Shakespeare did that.
Heart, mind, body, voice. Sign of the Four is, simply put, just what we're working on. But to me, much like everything else at the Funnery, it's so much bigger than that. And it carries out and beyond the 2 weeks into the rest of the year. And I can speak for myself, into the rest of our lives.
The work that we do at Funnery is so important because it connects it all in a way that feels fun and exciting and like exactly what we should be doing. I mean, so much about the camp is designed to sort of shake it out of you.
Having the words of Shakespeare, learning those beautiful words, we were able to communicate with each other on a really deep emotional level. And I think that's a huge reason why the Funnery creates such lifelong bonds with people that you only see for 2 weeks.
For me, I certainly came in sort of as a loud and articulate 12-year-old, so it wasn't so much a physical voice that I had to find. It was really a space where, for the first time, I was truly empowered as a young person. My voice mattered and was heard, not only by my peers, not only by older kids, but by the adults in the room, and it was equal.
Not only did we have the pandemic shutdown in March, but of course, just 6 or 8 weeks later, the global pandemic of racism became much more obvious to many people in the United States with the murder of George Floyd. We knew from before, right, that pandemic of racism and hate speech has been worsening for years. But now it's so much more obvious. I'm interested to see what the Funnery students have done.
Hi, I'm Claire Green. I'm currently living and working in China as a school counselor at the International School of Beijing, and I'm from the very first Craftsberry Funnery cohort. Funnery has been a part of my life since I think I just turned 13. I'm 35 now. So we had spoken about doing the Merchant of Venice a long time ago. We didn't have the time to give it the kind of depth that we needed to. And having that time for these big discussions about themes of anti-Semitism and xenophobia and othering and sexism and racism. So this was the year where we were given the gift of time to plan this in a way that we feel like we could do it responsibly and as a way to connect with and react to what was happening, in America and across the world.
Welcome, everybody, to the 2020 Get Thee to the Funnery production of Shakespeare's famous play, Merchant of Venice, a play which we have successfully avoided doing for 23 years. And we decided what a good idea to do this play this year in this strange ecosystem that we're living in, to see whether the play could teach us how to defend, how to be speakers up in the fight for people's acceptance and inclusivity. But wait, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We didn't have enough people signing up for the camp because of the pandemic.
I got on the phone and I called Vespo,
Youth Theatre in Mumbai, India.
Hello?
Come to Vermont.
What? Vermont? Shakespeare?
Right now. Yes.
What? Shakespeare? Oh. Yes!
I'm so excited. Okay, I'll see you later.
Bye! Bye-bye!
Craftsbury Common, Vermont. It's a beautiful place, great place to hold a camp. This year, our camp and our performances are online. Come here, I'll show you. 1, 2, 3.
So, first things first, you have to get into your typical Funnery attire. Alright, so here at Funnery, a classic outfit is elephant pants. The next thing we do is we log on to Zoom.
We have, once we're all together, around maybe a 10-minute conversation about here's how the day is going to go, here's what we're looking to get done, here's the goals.
After we say our morning hellos, we go on to some yoga. But it's not yoga, it's yogurt.
It's a little weirder now that we're over Zoom because you're using a lot less of your body, but it's still kind of good to remember that you have more than just your head and face.
And we're just gonna slowly come down and just hang here for a little minute.
Next, depending on the day, we'll either play some games or go right into scene blocks and rehearsals.
You are going to see some scenes from the play, Merchant of Venice, and give you a heads up, don't be too confused. You'll see a couple different actors playing Antonio, or a couple different actors playing Shylock or Portia, because at the Funnery, we do share roles. We typically don't have one Portia or one Shylock to hold it throughout the whole performance. And some of that's just logistics. You know, we have 2 weeks, having a young person come in, learn the entirety of the role of Shylock, memorize all those lines, and then do it themselves is a lot to ask. And we do call it the Funnery because it's supposed to be fun.
Okay. Merchant of Venice, scene 11, take 1. Yo! Alright, just give it a second. Why, man, I saw Bassanio under sail. With him is Graciano gone along, and on their ship I am sure Lorenzo is not.
I'll ask the question. Why, I am sure. If he forfeit, that will not take his flesh. What's that good for?
To bait fish withal. If it will feed nothing else, it will feed my revenge. He hath disgraced me and hindered me 500,000, laughed at my losses, mocked at my gains, scorned my nation, thwarted my bargains, cooled my friends, heated mine enemies, and what's his reason? I am a Jew.
Where is my lady?
Here? What would my lord?
Ma'am, there is an alighted at your gate, a young Venetian. I've not seen so likely an ambassador of love.
No more, I pray thee. Nerissa, let's go secret Cupid's post that comes so mannerly.
Bassiano, Lord of Love, if thy will it be. Great. All right.
That was perfect.
After we do about 2 to 3 scene blocks, we go to lunch.
Some people hang out and talk, or some people just go get some time away from the screens.
Usually for me, when I go to lunch, I study lines, and study lines, and study more lines. Now it's time to go back to camp, so log back onto Zoom.
And we usually all come back together, we meditate for 5-10 minutes maybe. And we've been kind of experiencing a lot of different types of meditation to kind of see what suits us best and what's best for all of us and what we need on that day and kind of work through that.
If your mind is wandering, that's okay. Just bring it back to your body. And we're just going to sit
in silence with Zero for a little bit.
After meditation, we go right into scene blocks again.
Signor Antonio, many a time, and often a Rialto, you have rated me about my monies and my usances. Still have I borne it with a patient shrug, for sufferance is the badge of all our tribe.
This is the fool that lent out money gratis. Jailer, look to him.
The Duke cannot deny the course of law. 'Twould much impeach the justice of his state, since that the trade and profit of our city consisteth of all nations. Therefore go. These griefs and losses have so baited me that I can hardly spare a pound of flesh tomorrow to my bloody creditor. Well, jailer, on.
I'll have my bond. Speak not against my bond. I've sworn an oath, and I will have my bond.
And I'm recording and go.
Most worthy gentlemen, I and my friend have, by your wisdom, been this day acquitted of grievous penalties. In lieu whereof, 3,000 ducats, due unto the Jew, we freely cope your courteous pains withal.
And stand indebted over and above, in love and service to you evermore.
He is well paid that is well satisfied, and I, delivering you, am satisfied. I pray you know me when we meet again. I wish you well, and so I take my leave.
Dear sir, of force I must attempt you further. Take some remembrance of us as a tribute.
Finally, after a good 2 or 3 more scene blocks, we will play a few games.
Around 2:15, we kind of all come back together and either have an important discussion or get our marching orders for how the next few days are going to look and what do we need to do outside of this little virtual world we have. And so we get all of that done, and 2:30, we're off on our own again. It's kind of a quick day.
That first day I was kind of like, it's nice to see people, but I am not ready to stare at a screen for 6 hours a day. It turned out to be totally worth it. Again, just getting to do crazy, wild things that, you wouldn't have thought of in a regular Zoom class. It's not the kind of thing you're doing in your high school English class, And so it was totally worth it, though I did doubt at the beginning.
Hello and welcome to this brief synopsis of Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice. I've tried to record this like 10 times, so I'm going to make this really brief. So there are 2 main plots that intersect. The first one is about Shylock versus Antonio. Shylock is a Jewish moneylender and Antonio is a Christian merchant, and so there's a lot of debate between them about religion and money.
In this scene we meet Antonio, who is sad, and his friends, who tell us why he must be sad. Because all his money is tied up with his merchant vessels at sea.
In sooth, I know not why I am so sad. It wearies me. But how I caught it, found it, or came by it, what stuff 'tis made of, whereof it is born, I am to learn.
His friends are making fun of him because they think he's either in love or it's because he has his ships at sea with a lot of expensive commodities. And in comes Bassanio, who is a very beloved friend of Antonio's.
In Belmont, there is a lady richly left, and she is fair, and fairer than that word of wondrous virtues. Sometimes, from her eyes, I did receive fair, speechless messages. Her name is Portia. Oh, my Antonio.
Portia must marry, but she must be courted and won by a suitor in the weird way her deceased father has commanded.
I will die as chaste as Diana unless I be obtained by my father's will. I'm glad this parcel of wooers are so reasonable, yet there is not one amongst them. But I dote on his very absence.
Do you not remember, lady, a certain Venetian, a scholar and a soldier that came hither once in company?
Yes, Bassanio, I think he was so called.
True, madam. he of all the men that ever my foolish eyes looked upon was the best deserving of a lady.
Yes, I remember him well, and I remember him being worthy of thy praise.
You're Bassanio!
Graciano!
Bassanio!
Graciano!
I have a suit for you.
You have obtained it.
Oh, you must not deny me. I must go with you to Belmont.
Why, then you must. But hear thee, Graciano. You are too, rude and bold of voice. Pray, take pain to ally with some cold drops of modesty. Your skipping spirit, lest through thy wild behavior I be misconstrued.
Allay with some cold drops of modesty, not a lie. Allay.
Senor Bassanio, hear me. If I do not put on a sober habit, talk with respect, and swear but now and then, wear prayer books in my pocket, look demure, nay more, while grace is saying, put mine eyes thus with my hat, and sigh and say, Amen.
We shall see your bearing.
Nay, but I bar tonight. You shall not gauge me by what we do tonight.
No, that were pity. I would rather entreat you to put on your boldest suit of mirth, for we have friends that propose merriment. So, fare you well. I have some business.
And I shall see you at supper time.
I had to wear a beanie that looked similar to other people. Sometimes we'll have several people playing one character. There's a lot of people in the camp, and there's a lot of very talented people in the camp, and there's also very large roles. And so that allows like a bunch of different people to try being a lead character and try having like huge monologues or whatever it is.
In this scene we meet Shylock, the Jewish person whom Bassanio seeks to borrow money from, since Antonio has no ready money.
3,000 ducats for 3 months. And Antonio bound.
May you stud me? Will you pleasure me? Shall I have your answer?
Antonio is a good man.
Have you heard any imputation to the contrary?
Oh, no. My meaning in saying he's a good man is to have you understand me that he is sufficient. Yet, his means are in supposition.
Shylock, obviously, having felt angered by the way he'd been treated in the past by Antonio and all his associates who were Christian, decides that this would be a great opportunity to teach him a lesson.
The Merchant of Venice is Antonio. And Antonio, who's always described, oh, he's the nicest guy, he's the finest man, he's so honorable, he's the biggest bigot in the play. And he has made a career over the past 400 years of hiding behind Shylock, the Jew.
Also, my mom was super happy because the character Antonio is the Merchant of Venice, and you know, they have been wanting to watch me, and when they hear that I am playing a role of the title role, you know, and you know, Merchant of Venice is Antonio, and I am playing Antonio. This was the biggest thing my mom was tripping on, and why she has to watch it, even if she doesn't know and she doesn't understand English.
But ships are but boards. Sailors but men. Then there be land rats and water rats, land thieves and water thieves. I mean, by rats. If you repay me not on such day, such place, such sum, or sums as are expressed in the condition, let the forfeit be nominated for an equal pound of your fair flesh to be cut off and taken. In what part of your body pleaseth me?
Content and faith. I'll seal to such a bond and say there was much kindness in the Jew.
You shall not steal such a bond from me. I'll rather dwell in my necessity.
And Antonio agrees to it because Antonio thinks he's going to get his money back and probably like triple the amount of money that he's borrowed and will be able to pay Shylock back. So The Merchant of Venice is actually a comedy. And that's really interesting because every page is filled with so much hate and very blatant anti-Semitism. And we kept waiting for the comedy to come. You finally meet Lancelot Gobbo, who is the clown in the play, and he's super funny. And I get to play Lancelot Gobbo. So Lancelot Gobbo is basically initially working for Shylock and helping him look after his daughter, Jessica. But then he decides to go work for Bassanio because Shylock is Jewish.
The most courageous fiend bids me pack. "Ria," says the fiend. "Away," says the fiend. "For the heaven throw up a brave mind," says the fiend, "and run." Well, my conscience, hanging around the neck of my heart, says very wisely to me.
But then he's also going through this dilemma because he loves Jessica. But then he finally decides to go work for Bassanio.
You don't have to.
Oops.
I'm sorry. Thou wilt leave my father, so our house is hell, and thou, a merry devil, didst rob it of some taste of tediousness. But fare thee well. Here's a ducat for thee. And Lancelot, soon at supper thou shalt see Lorenzo, who is thy new master's guest. Give him this letter. Do it secretly. And so, farewell. I shall not have my father see me and talk with thee.
Adieu, tears exhibit my tongue, most beautiful pagan, most sweet Jew.
Upon his leaving, the clown receives affection from Jessica, Shylock's daughter, who sends a message with him to Lorenzo, her suitor.
And Shylock's daughter, Jessica, has a bunch of internalized anti-Semitism, and she runs away with this Christian boy, taking with her a bunch of Shylock's money, causing him to be, out of money and out of, his only family because his wife died.
Approach. Here dwells my father Jew. Ho, who's within?
Who are you? Tell me, for more certainty, albeit that I do swear that I do know your tongue.
Lorenzo, and thy love.
Lorenzo.
Oh, you are sweet, even in the lovely garnish of a boy. But come at once, for the close night doth play the runaway, and we are stayed for at Bassanio's feast.
I will make the doors and gild myself with some more ducats, and be with you straight.
Now, by my hood, a Gentile and no Jew.
Oh, beshrew me, but I love her heartily, for she is wise, if I can judge of her, and fair she is, if that mine eyes be true. What? Art thou come? On, gentlemen, away. Our masking mates by this time for us stay.
In the second part of the scene, Gratiano is prevented from revelry as Antonio warns him that, the wind being up, it's time to sail to Belmont. On board already is Bassanio, in a hurry to get to Portia's house to pass the test.
Fie, Gratiano, where are all the rest? 'Tis 9 o'clock, our friends all stay for you. No mask tonight, the wind is come about. Bassanio presently will go aboard. I have sent 20 out to seek for you.
I am glad on it. I desire no more delight than to be under sail and gone tonight.
In this scene, we hear that Shylock has discovered Jessica's disappearance and the loss of all his riches.
I never heard of passion so strange, so confused, so outrageous, and so variable, as the dog Jew did utter in the streets, "My daughter! Oh, my ducats! Oh, my daughter!" Fled with a Christian! Oh, my Christian ducats! Justice, the law! My ducats and my daughter! And jewels! 2 stones, 2 rich and precious stones, stolen by my daughter! Justice, find the girl! Why, all the boys in Venice follow him, crying, "His stones, his daughter, and his ducats!"
These guys are kind of boneheads, and they need. We talked about calling them the merchant bros. That they're they come from a place of privilege, but they're also comedic. They're not comedic in that to take light of the fact that those two are incredibly anti-Semitic. They're comedic in the fact that they're so full of themselves and they're how great they are in society. They almost become a caricature.
He came too late. The ship was under sail. But there, the Duke was given to understand that in a gondola were seen together Lorenzo and his amorous Jessica. Oh!
So playing Solario was a bit of a challenge for me, first and foremost because it's a very masculine character. He has a lot of tics, and especially in terms of stance and vocal stuff, he has a lot that I simply do not have. It's a similar thing with what I was dealing with when I was playing Macbeth a couple of funneries ago. So that was interesting to deal with as far as like posture and how I was projecting and like the vocal features that I was deciding to use. We are kind of, since The Merchant of Venice is a comedy, we kind of are the comic relief. We are intended to make the audience laugh. And so the audience has to kind of like us.
They are definitely a voice of the time of so many people, but we as audience members now, with coming from such a different realm, don't want to side with them. So that's the nice thing, is that you can laugh at them, you do not side with them.
The characters we play are obviously bigoted, vocally bigoted, and have opinions that in general are completely unacceptable. So the audience can't like us that much. They have to be able to laugh at us, but they also have to be able to recognize that what we're saying is pretty awful.
I wanted to express how ludicrous that bigotry is, and that's why I wanted to play up the clown in that character.
It was challenging to play Gratiano. The fun part was that I got to play a Shakespearean frat boy who was just a total, doesn't care about anything. The challenging part was that I had to play somebody who was quite aggressively anti-Semitic. It was very challenging to try to put myself in the shoes of someone who had that much hate.
So they're all very aware of what's going on and have been part of marches and rallies, and it's such a beautiful thing. But there wouldn't have been a way to do Merchant of Venice without having these conversations. And this was something that the staff talked about for months.
The Merchant of Venice is deeply offensive and troubling. It just is. It has a long history of being anti-Semitic and being used by anti-Semitic people for anti-Semitic reasons. This happens with Shakespeare. He was such an artist and such an honest observer of the human condition. He couldn't help himself. Shylock comes out as a voice of resistance and as a voice for voiceless people. Shylock is not the villain ever to me. What he says is what we are dealing with, the same ghettoization, with the same statelessness, with the same oppression and institutional violence that he deals with. And he has such clarity around all of it.
This is more a journey of discovery. This is going to be probably the longest kind of in-depth portion of what we do today, but it's to really get us practicing this process of listening, speaking authentically, connecting with one another, sharing our viewpoints, and holding spaces of non-judgment for people's thoughts and opinions. And then finally, we're going to do a practical experience of discussion around race, but not from this kind of high theoretical perspective, but from a very personal perspective.
I see Alex with your hands sort of up Is it up or not?
It is.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, for me personally, like being in this scene, like even like being cast as Shylock in general just made me like originally really uncomfortable because like I am Jewish and like I like didn't know how I felt about being a character that's portrayed as like a greedy, bad Jewish man. The more I thought about it and like the more I read through like my lines and stuff, it like I realized like it is important to like show this kind of stuff and like to like but also speak out about it.
Kind of weird and icky feeling because like I know in my case playing Bassanio, I have an idea of how I want Bassanio to be in like my ideal world of kind of just like the fun, like kind of dumb, just like almost a comedic character, but he's not in this scene, and there's really no one that's funny in this scene because it's so much hatred and you can't play that off in a way that's kind of fun to listen to or funny to do.
You think about what things are just totally like off limits to say now, the kind of thing that you say and you're going to get beat up by anyone who has half a brain because it's just a horrible thing to say. And there's stuff like that in that play, and it's just kind of shocking.
It was definitely hard to act as like the Duke in the sense where I had to be so like bigoted and hatred against like this one man for something as insignificant as like his religion. And it was weird to have to use like the term Jew, especially in a derogatory way when referring to like the actors and stuff. It was very uncomfortable.
I've never read or seen anything that's kind of got this dichotomy where it was once portrayed as like kind of a feel-good comedy, but now has this massive dramatic weight attached to it as a result of changing times. Like, this is a very unique piece of art.
As actors, we need to be able to speak up and show what is going on out there. If artists won't talk about it, if we won't show it, bringing it to attention through any form of art is actually a very important role and responsibility that we carry as artists.
I think what we didn't anticipate was how much the campers would lead that and lead these beautiful conversations.
You know, you have to be able to listen and you have to be able to be like, yeah, in a lot of ways, I contribute to a lot of the systemic oppression of people of color. And how can I use that privilege to, you know, stop white supremacy?
I do agree. I think it can be very hard for white people in America right now to acknowledge how much they both benefit and perpetuate white supremacy and supremacy culture in general, and like patriarchal culture in general. Like that it can always be hard to hear like you're producing the problem, especially when you don't necessarily see yourself as someone who is, but it's more about the culture you entertain and you allow around you that does perpetuate that. It's easy to just say, well, oh, it's not me, it's somebody else's problem, like I'm one of the good ones. But it does take a lot of strength to actually acknowledge like both the faults you have both in your logic and past behaviors. That can be very difficult,
especially in like arguments and debates of class, race, anything like that. I find if someone has more ignorant views, or however, if their views aren't aligned with mine and they don't actually listen to what I'm saying, the facts I'm giving, I get very, very angry very quickly. And that often shuts down the conversation because now both sides are defensive. So I get nervous when heading into such like topics because I'm afraid I will be the one to accidentally shut down the conversation, which is not something I want to do.
But for me, the fear gets bigger when it is with someone you really, really know and someone who's very close to you.
And it can also be dangerous too. Like if the person you're disagreeing with about this stuff happens to be a parent or guardian that you rely on for like living situations and food, it can also be kind of hard to have these stances and feel confident in them when you might have everything taken away from you.
I like the times when I've been walking around for days and days thinking there's a conversation that I have to have with this person and I'm really afraid to start it. but I have to start it. They're not going to start it. And there's always the chance, that it's going to ruin their relationship or it's going to make the relationship a whole lot better. And then you stew about it, and then you finally, screw up the courage both to speak and also to be willing to listen to what the other person has to say. And it usually, in my experience, has turned out to be, why did I wait so long to talk about that? It's so much better now.
People's fear of the unknown often puts them in a situation of comfort, this stale, non-moving position where they block out everything else. They don't learn, they don't develop, they're stuck in their space because they don't want to move forward. They don't want to evolve and not be afraid. They want to stay where they are and be safe, what they know is safe. Yeah.
But they might be upset with you for thinking that and saying that.
That's okay. That's okay. If they want to think that, they can go on and think that. As long as they're not hurting others or themselves, it's okay.
We think we have to agree, or everybody in the world agree, when most of the times we don't agree with everybody in our own household, right? Sometimes even when you live by yourself, you don't always agree with, you like fight with yourself about something, but it's so true. And yet we still have to work to love a person independent of our belief systems, independent of the way that they think and view the world, and hope that, they will expand just by who you are, right? So that is really powerful.
And this is where my just need to know all the things brain just goes, but why don't you want to learn about it? Then you'll be less afraid.
Since the coronavirus pandemic, I have been doing a lot of research on how anti-Asian crime rates, hate crimes, have risen in the United States, specifically because Trump called it the China virus, and he blames the Chinese, the Asians. But it's definitely heartbreaking to see, and it's made me not fear for my safety, but definitely become more aware of what's going on around me and how I need to protect myself from anything that may happen.
Just by standing firm in who we are, sometimes that's a model for other people. And they become curious as to, why do you believe the way that you do? And they can learn from that. So excellent.
This is a lot to think about, especially on a Friday afternoon. I want everyone to make sure to take some time for themselves this afternoon. This is a really emotionally intense process, and you're probably exhausted from the week, and you might be emotionally exhausted from this, even though it was a very positive experience. But take some time to yourself, take some time to relax, clear your mind to make room for all those lines and all this learning, and really put some time into loving yourself today.
Make him a little jazz. Jazz it up. There it is. And then from front of the camera, you're going to go backwards. Bodega, Topeka.
Bodega, Topeka. Bodega, Topeka. Bodega, Topeka. Bodega, Topeka.
All right. Fast as you can. Topeka, Topeka, Topeka. Bodega, bodega.
The other plot is about a rich heiress named Portia who is trying to find a husband after her father died, and her father left a bunch of really weird rules about who's allowed to court her.
There are 3 caskets, one made of silver, one of gold, and one of lead. In one of those caskets is Portia's picture, and only if you pick the correct one do you win Portia's hand in marriage.
There's something tells me I would not lose you. I would detain you here some month or two before you venture for me. Beshrew your eyes. They have overlooked me and divided me. One half of me is yours, and the other half also yours. I would say my own, but if mine, then yours. So all yours. I speak too long, but 'tis to draw out time to stay you from the election.
I loved playing Portia, actually. She's one of my favorite characters, despite some views of hers that I disagree with. It's very interesting to see Portia in that one specific scene because it seems like there's a character shift in her for just that one scene compared to the rest of the play.
If you do love me, you will find me out.
So it's the same configuration. My boy, and then Maddie, and then Portia's right there. Oh god.
So you are
I
here.
hate. Yes. Yeah. I hate the non-mirroring. My lord and lady, it is now our time that have stood by and seen our wishes prosper to cry good joy, my lord and lady.
My lord Bassanio and my gentle lady, I wish you all the joy that you can wish, for I am sure that you wish from...
And it's the other way too. You were looking the wrong way for a second.
Okay, I'm just not gonna look anywhere except up, because I know up. Damn it, come on.
This is such a doozy.
Brooke, go away. Brooke, go away.
I remember one time I had to pause, exclaim loudly to Lucas Subiete. And it's like, dude, you gotta look at your wife. You're doing a great job, but you gotta look at her and act like you like her at least a little bit. Come on, buddy.
I know, I'm just blushing. I'm so in love.
So hot in my room. This is the worst
So
posture.
hard. I can't, what?
I love you, Bassanio.
Luca, just do your line.
Okay. My lord Bassanio and my gentle lady, I wish you all the joy that you can wish. For I am sure that you can wish none from me. And when your honors mean to solemnize the bargain of your faith, I do beseech you, even at that time, I may be married too.
With all my heart, so thou canst get a wife.
I thank your lordship. You have got me one. My eyes, my lord, can look as swift as yours. You saw the mistress, I beheld the maid. Your fortune stood upon the casket there, as did mine too. For wooing here with oaths of love, I got a promise of this fair one here, to have her love, provided that your fortune achieved her mistress.
Is it true, Larissa?
Madam, it is. So you stand pleased with all.
And do you, Graziano, mean good faith?
Yes, faith, my lord.
Our feast shall be much honored in your marriage.
Okay, so Portia and Nerissa give rings to Bassanio and Graciano, and these rings are just a sign of their love. And they obviously ask Bassanio and Graciano to promise them that they wouldn't ever lose the ring or give it away. And Bassanio and Graciano, as dutiful to-be husbands, promise them so.
All rise for the Duke of Venice. What is Antonio here?
Ready. So please, your grace.
I am sorry for thee. Thou art come to face a stony adversary. Come and call the Jew into court. Make room and let him stand before our face. Shylock, the world thinks, and I think so too, that thou leads this fashion of thy malice to the last hour of act. Then 'tis thought thou show thy mercy and remorse more strange than is thy strange apparent cruelty.
I have possessed your grace of what I purpose, and by a holy Sabbath have I sworn to have the due and forfeit of my bond. You deny it. Let the dangers light upon your charter and your city's freedom. You ask me why I rather choose to have a weight of carrion flesh than receive 3,000 ducats. I'll not answer it, but say it is my humor.
We see that Shylock is merciless in his application of the legal argument. Things look bad for the merchant until Portia, in disguise, comes in to save the day.
His Excellency the Doge of Venice, your grace shall understand that here comes a young lawyer of Rome, whose name is Balthazar. Balthazar. Thank you. Balthazar. He is acquainted with the cause in controversy between Shylock the Jew and Antonio the merchant. He is furnished with great learning despite his lack of years. I leave him to your gracious acceptance. Etc. Etc. Etc.
Come you from Padua?
I do, my lord, with a letter for your grace.
Why dost thou whet thy knife so earnestly?
Got the forfeiture from the bankrupt there.
And no prayers pierce thee?
No, none that thou hast the wit to make.
Oh, be thou damned, inexorable dog, and for thy life let justice be accused.
I stand here for the law.
Is your name Shylock?
Shylock is my name.
Of a strange nature is the suit you follow, yet in such rule that the Venetian law cannot impugn you as you do proceed. You stand within his danger, do you not?
Aye, so he says.
Do you confess the bond?
I do.
Then must the Jew be merciful?
And what compulsion must I? Tell me that.
The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath.
It is twice blessed. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes.
'Tis the mightiest in the mightiest. It becomes the throned monarch better than his crown.
His scepter shows the force of temporal power, the attribute to awe and mercy wherein doth sit the dread and the fear of kings.
But mercy is above this sceptered sway. It is enthroned in the hearts of kings. It is an attribute to God himself.
An earthly power doth then show likest gods, when mercy seasons justice.
Therefore, Jew, though justice be thy plea, consider this, that in the course of justice, none of us should see salvation.
We do pray for mercy.
And that same prayer doth teach us all to render the deeds of mercy.
The quality of mercy is frequently sampled out of context. This is unfortunately common with Shakespeare's work, but ignoring what Portia's doing in this scene changes the whole meaning of the monologue. Portia is frequently held up as a paragon of white female strength, preaching kindness to the heartless savage who only need yield an ounce of his power to save the life of a struggling merchant. But by looking at the context of the show, we reveal the role of privilege in the pursuit of justice and mercy. We cannot ignore the fact that, as a Jewish person, Shylock has few legal ways of making a living. He is not considered a citizen of the place he was born, and he's regularly verbally and physically assaulted by Antonio himself. This is Shylock's only course of justice. Today, especially, it's evident that oppressors maintain power by defining how the oppressed seek freedom. Whether listening to this monologue or to the news, it's our responsibility to examine the power dynamics at play and ally ourselves with the fight for justice.
So the morality was essentially morality for Christians, but anyone who was outside of that Christian realm was judged, right? And oppressed. Okay.
So Portia says he can go ahead and take out and carve out a pound of flesh as long as not even a single drop of blood is reached, like touches the floor or gets spilled. A drop of Christian blood.
Shed thou no blood, nor cut thou less nor more than just a pound of flesh. If thou cuttest more or less than just a pound, be it but so much as it makes it light or heavy in the substance, or the division of the 20th part of a 1/4 scruple, nay, if the scale do turn but in the estimation of a hair, thou diest, and all thy goods are confiscated.
Now, infidel, I have you on the hip.
Why doth the Jew pause? Take thy forfeiture.
Give me my principal and let me go.
Have it ready for thee. Here it is.
He hath refused it in the open court. He shall have merely justice and his bond.
A Daniel, still say I, a second Daniel. I thank thee, Jew, for teaching me that word.
Shall I not have barely my principal?
Thou shalt have nothing but the forfeiture, to be so taken at thy peril, Jew.
Aye then, the devil give him good of it. I'll stay no longer questioned.
Tarry, Jew. The law hath yet another hold on you.
It is enacted in the laws of Venice, if it be proved against an alien that by direct or indirect attempts he seek the life of any citizen, the party against the which he doth contrive shall seize one half his goods, the other half comes to the privy coffer of the state, and the offender's life lies in the mercy of the Duke only. In which predicament, I say, thou standest, for it appears by manifest proceeding that indirectly and directly too, thou hast contrived against the very life of the defendant.
Oh, learned judge, Mark, Jew. Oh, learned judge. Every time after, I would read my line where I would yell, oh, Mark, Jew, a second Daniel, I would, sneer at him and say all this nasty stuff. It was very tough. After I would say those lines, I'd just think to myself, God, why? Why would you say that to him?
He was not fighting just for the bond. I believe he was fighting for his community, his tribe. He wanted to earn some respect for his tribe, and which he doesn't. He fails to do so, and he is really hurt. And he says that I'm not well, and he leaves the court.
I do think that the experience was worthwhile, because although it's a fictional character, and Graciano never actually lived, people still think that way, and it was a worthwhile experience to try to understand why, even though I don't think I ever could.
I did have to fill myself up with a lot of negativity and a lot of that hatred, which normally I'm not that kind of a person, and it was really difficult for me. But I think because this exists in the society, and because there are people who do it when they are not acting and when they mean it, I think representing that was very important for me.
Portia and her main lady in waiting, essentially, Nerissa, convince their husbands to give them the rings, but they're still dressed as men. So the next scene is them being like, haha, we had the rings all along.
I must be plain with you. To part so slightly of your wife's first gift.
Why, I were best to cut my left hand off and swear I lost the ring defending it.
My lord Bassanio gave his ring away unto the judge that begged it, and indeed deserved it too.
What ring gave you, my lord? Not which, I hope, which you received of me.
You say my finger hath not the ring. It is gone.
And then obviously Portia runs to clarify, and she puts back on her disguise of Balthazar and says, here we go. And I'm the one who saved y'all and saved Antonio. And everyone's obviously really happy and surprised.
To bed now, being scant 2 hours till day. While I live, I'll fear no other thing. So sore as keeping safe Nerissa's ring.
At Flunnery, everyone is so focused on helping each other and working towards that same common goal, whether that's putting on a show that night, making a silly improv scene together, comforting someone during lunch. Everyone is so tuned into what their peers need and what the group needs. And I think that's really what makes the environment so different and why it's so fulfilling to come back to every year, because when everyone is caring about everyone else, you don't need to focus on yourself.
Even we had sessions of six hours every day. I was never tired. I was never tired any day. I was equally motivated. I found new passions. I found Shakespeare. I realized what Shakespeare is. Why do they call that it's actor's best friend?
Just the ugliness of people and discrimination and everything else, just reading it and doing it, it made me feel I want to talk about it. It's something that makes me so mad, but so like it was so real that I'm gonna talk about it forever and understand what is up.
I want everybody who comes to the Funnery, all these young people, to find their voice, to work on their voice, to strengthen it, and to use it, exercise it. It's more important than ever.
You know, what we were doing wasn't easy, and there weren't any clear answers really in how we should have gone about approaching it. And so it was really great to have Shornell's expertise, and the time that we spent with her was really, really so invaluable.
Like you spoke about, I think that is what art is for. It is to connect it to our humanity, to help us be able to relate in however ways we might relate, whether it is being Jewish, whether it is having a disability, whether it is being ostracized, whether it is living in a society where you're seen as a second-class citizen. So many different points at which we come to this. And I just want to thank you for what I am seeing, and that is both your listening, which is what we, talked about and dialogued about last week, and the difficulty of that, and also your authentic sharing. Like, that is the really powerful part. That is where our healing begins, when we're able to listen authentically and speak authentically as well. I appreciate you. This feeds me as much as it feeds you. So thank you so much for having me. And I'm looking forward to the next time.
Honestly, the most special place that I've ever been to, the place that I have, the place that's the most dearest in my heart is the Funnery. There's honestly nothing else like that even comes close to it.
But Luca, it's not a place.
Well, yes, it's a state of mind.
कभी टूटे ना किया था जो तूने कभी कभी हारेगा जीतेगा वापस तू फिर से आई ना.
I was very nervous about how this would turn out, moving everything virtually, moving everything onto Zoom. These young people, these kids, they have like an innate ability to communicate by a screen.
Whoa. Innate?
All right. Well, not innate, but it's their first language. They grew up with it. They're fluent in the technology as a means of communication. People like you and me, Peter, it's our second language. We're not bad, but it's harder.
I see your point.
I remember one time, like, Tisha messaged me, and she was like, "Oh, I thought that you didn't like me just because you were kind of, like, always quiet and didn't really talk to me." And I was like, how can you not like Tisha? She's awesome.
Pardon my poetry. While Bassanio, Salania, Celerio, Gratiano comes to Antonio, Nerissa waits, Portia waits for the boring prince of Morocco.
Yeah.
Oh, woo! Woohoo!
It was a big deal for us. We wanted to get our actors to confront similar situations while creating a collaborative piece of art with people who are, like across the world.
I always enjoy a good political or philosophical conversation.
I really, really hope if by next year the pandemic clears out and things are a lot safer, I get the chance to go to Vermont myself and physically take part in the camp and meet Peter and all my friends that I made over the past 2 weeks. And it'll just be a dream come true.
I think being around young people who are so active and so engaged and so thoughtful and so strong, and feeling like, oh, that's right? Like we're supposed to follow young people.
I'm Antonio. I'm very sad and lonely. It's probably because you're worried about your boat. No.
And all we have to do is do our best to support and be consulted as needed. That makes me feel really hopeful.
Somehow 2 weeks is enough. We're fulfilled with the time we get to spend together. And because we all love each other so much, we really value that time and make the most out of it to last pretty much the whole year. And then we get to see each other for another 2 weeks. And this process and cycle keeps going and going through the years. And that's really funnery, the circle of funnery, I guess. That fulfillment lasts a lifetime.